Firstly, let me welcome you all to this evening debate on what does the green economy mean for Swindon. Firstly, let me just explain who am I. I'm Dave Brown. I've been asked to chair this discussion meeting this evening. I'm a retired resident of Swindon, but I was formerly Director of Science Programmes at the Natural Environment Research Council. But I want to say a little bit more about where I come from in a moment. But firstly, I want to thank you all for coming. But I want to also give special thanks to our panel members who will introduce themselves in a moment for taking the time out to be with us this evening, and particularly to the folk from the Swindon Climate Action Network who have organised this event. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to an interesting and lively discussion, not the least because personally I'm unsure what the green economy actually is. Perhaps we'll get more enlightened about that as you go through the course of this evening. Okay, before I explain how we're going to run the meeting, I want to invite the panel members to tell us, no more than 3 minutes, so I hope that's not too short, what they're going to bring to this discussion this evening, particular topic. And to do this without resorting to party political rhetoric or making a speech. So firstly, can I just ask Molly to kick off, please?
So I'm a green economist, so I think that's what I'm bringing to the discussion tonight. I know a lot more about the green economy than I know about Swindon, so I'm going to learn a lot about Swindon and hopefully share something of what I know about the green economy and how I think that's going to change the way we live. I've got a definition, which I'm going to share, see if this works for you. A green economy is an economy that results in improved human well-being and social equity while significantly reducing environmental risks and ecological scarcities. That's a definition that comes from the United Nations Environment Programme and it definitely works for me. I would like to stress the aspect that's about social equity as well as reducing environmental impact and reducing resource use, because I think that's key to actually making a green economy work in any community. And they also tell us that a green economy is low carbon, resource efficient and socially inclusive. So I'm going to basically think about 3 things that I think are necessary in order to redesign our economy along green lines. I think a lot of the discussion tonight is probably going to focus on kind of techie stuff, which I think of as the hardware green economy. And I'm not saying that's not important, but I think that's just one aspect of what we're dealing with when we're looking at the green economy. So, for example, the hydrogen roadmap produced by the Council is an example of something I would call green economy hardware. Now, is that a part of the green economy? To me, that question depends on how much energy was put into making that happen in order to change the system to a hydrogen-based economy. How much energy do you actually invest in that? That's an important question, not just how much energy do you use once you are actually running that system. And that applies to everything we do to make the transition to the green economy. How much energy does it take us to get there, and is that a good investment of energy? That's my kind of test of the hardware aspect of the green economy. The green economy has huge potential in terms of jobs, but those jobs shouldn't just be in the construction phase of the hardware of the green economy. They also need to be in the actual running of the economy. So we need to think about an economy that's labour intensive rather than energy intensive. Regen Southwest has estimated that if we were meeting our targets for moving towards renewable energy, we would be able to create 34,000 jobs in the whole of the Southwest. But actually at the moment we're well short of that because we're just not having enough investment in renewables. So that's the hardware. I'm sure we'll have plenty more discussion about that. But I've also got a second aspect of this, which I'm calling rebooting the system. I think it's really important that we recognise that the way our economy works is intrinsically badly designed, and it relies on inequality. And I think Boris Johnson made that point to me very nicely yesterday. If you think about an economy as needing inequality to generate growth, to generate dynamism, I think that's automatically working against sustainability. Because some people are always trying to get ahead of other people, and as they do that, they use resources in a way I think is unnecessary for well-being, and actually I think detracts from well-being, because the inequality itself is not good for our society as a whole. There's also obviously an important link between economic growth and sustainability. So what politicians tend to do is they tend to offer us more stuff. And they say, don't worry about whether you've got more stuff than the person next door, because you've got more stuff than you had last year, and that's what you should focus on. So if we stop the economy growing, we wouldn't be able to say that anymore, and this question of equality would become much more important. So that's why I think there's a very important link between how much equality we've got in our economy and whether we're able to be sustainable. And lastly, my third point is called, we knew this was coming, changing the software. And I think that's another important aspect that often we don't think about, the kind of design the design principle that we're running our economy on. So a key one that I'd identify here is the idea of a circular economy. We shouldn't take things in at one end and throw them out as waste at the other end. We shouldn't be able to have any production processes whose waste products cannot be used in a new production process. That's the aim of the circular economy. It means a completely different design of how our economic systems work. That's one aspect. I'm also putting in this idea of an Ubuntu economy, the idea that actually we're not individuals, we are a community. That needs to be true of our economy as well as our society. I exist because you exist. We're all part of a human community. We need to take that design principle into our economy as well. And lastly, and I've been a bit serious, so this is my final point, we need to lighten up a bit, we need to have a lot more fun, we need to focus much more on conviviality, on human relationships, on the things that make us feel good about each other and the place we live, and much less on stuff, shopping and individual consumption. So that's my agenda for this evening. I look forward to hearing what you think.
Okay, thank you. Just before I go, can I just remind people that if you have mobile telephones, can you either turn them off or silent? Sorry, I should have said that. Robert, can I?
Yes, indeed, and it's a pleasure to see Molly again after quite a few years. We were opponents way back in the 90s, but I say opponents in very much the most civilised sense of the word. Whilst Molly and I perhaps don't agree on some of the fundamentals, we do respect each other's position. In the spirit of the instruction that the chairman has given all of us this evening, I certainly don't intend to break that, because I think tonight can be a very useful exchange of views and ideas. I think Molly's already given her perspective about how she sees the green economy developing, and in line with her green beliefs, she's already put her credentials fairly and squarely in front of you. I don't agree that growth is somehow antithetical to sustainability. I think actually growth and sustainability are two sides of the same coin. An economic growth, which has been the lifeblood of Swindon and indeed other parts of the British economy, it is something that can exist very much hand in hand with ensuring that what we pass on to our children and our children's children is something worth having. In other words, the very essence of what sustainable development should mean. I think, therefore, the phrase green growth does mean something. It means that the billions of pounds of investment that is waiting out there to be brought into the British energy infrastructure will result in new jobs and growth. And we're talking about hundreds of billions of pounds. We're going to need 110 billion to renew our existing energy infrastructure, and I believe that investment of double that is out there and available should we send a clear message to the markets that Britain is open for business when it comes to sustainable development and a different way in which we deliver energy. And you will notice that recently energy policy has become very much central to the political debate. And I'm not going to get into the whys and wherefores of who said what to whom and who currently has grabbed the political agenda. The truth is that what is happening at the moment is that the hotter the debate gets, the less clear it becomes, I think, to the public. And it's very difficult to get people to widen their focus from purely the issue of energy bills and energy costs to the longer term and to the sustainability of our energy supply and what it means for us as a country. But you know, I'm in politics because I'm an eternal optimist, And I believe that a lot of the initiatives that we are taking locally are small but important examples of how we can win nationally. And I'm thinking of projects such as the investment in PV that is going on here locally. And I'm hoping that the major development at Broughton, which is currently in the planning pipeline, will indeed happen and will lead the way in showing that as a project that will bring in an energy supply to our local community and bring real benefits to local people and honour the principles of sustainability, we can show that locally in Swindon we can show other communities the way forward. I'm quite rightly being told to wind up. I will at this stage, but I'll just leave you with one thought as we go through the discussion. I take Molly's point about inequality, but I don't think that you should drive out competition or a competitive edge from what we're talking about tonight, because I believe that competition means efficiency, and for wise companies they will see that reducing energy consumption will lead to greater efficiency, greater productivity and greater competitiveness, and that too is happening right here in Swindon. Thank you.
Gary, can I ask you to?
Feels like we're all going to be a bit sort of jack in the box here, actually, leaping up and down, but anyhow. Good evening, everybody. Not everybody here will know who I am. My name is Gary Mantle, and I'm the Director of Wiltshire Wildlife Trust. I've been Director of the Trust now for nearly 24 years, and I'm also the Chair of the Local Nature Partnership for Wiltshire and Swindon. I suppose really as an opening statement about what do I think about the green economy, is I suppose I see it as an opportunity to have a really interesting discussion about the future. I'm not wedded to trying to label things as the green economy is about this kind of development or that kind of development. For me, when I think about the green economy, I think of it as being an opportunity to be creative and think about a future that we want to create which is much more sustainable. It's about shedding some of those old ways of doing things and thinking about exciting new ways of doing things, of putting different values, of challenging the old with the new. So it's not about growth for me. It's not about growth, because growth in itself I don't see as being anything particularly worthwhile. What I think is worthwhile is a sense of happiness, of contentment, of community, a sense of regeneration of spirit. That's really exciting, really hard to do, but really exciting. And I think the green economy can provide the spark that actually makes that happen. So the green economy has to try and reconcile the different challenges that we have about more people and the need for consumption of finite resources, and how do you balance that consumption with the fact that things are finite. And it's also about trying to balance the need for development, and yet we need to put nature at the heart of all development, because there can be no capitalism without natural capital, and we're consuming that at an ever-increasing rate, and we have to stop consuming the natural capital and think about living on the revenue. And so that's a really important challenge. There's a tension there. So for me, green economy is about challenging the old ways of thinking, things that have led us to where we are now, which actually isn't great. You know, there's some wonderful things, but it's not a great place to be. We've got some huge challenges facing us in the future. And I'm an optimist as well. I believe we can rise to that challenge, but we won't do it if we apply the same thinking that's led us to where we are now. So the green economy is really the opportunity to say, well, let's have a very fresh new approach to the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl.
So, good evening everyone. My name is Del Eden. I'm a councillor here in Swindon, and for the last 18 months I've actually been in charge of the planning department, and the actual title I've got for my portfolio is Strategic Planning and Sustainability. So I have the fun task of doing the controversial issues when it comes to housing development, but actually how do we protect our green open spaces? How do we actually try and grow a green economy in Swindon and look at the technology side like photovoltaics? So actually I have a really interesting portfolio as far as I'm getting involved in it. But because I've been about 18 months now, I have very little time personally for nice fluffy visions about things that we want to see happening in 10, 15, 50 years time. I actually want to see things happening on the ground today, next year, in 5 years time. How do we actually get that kind of cultural change taking place? And for me, it's kind of summing up a lot of what's been said so far, but for me fundamentally, it's actually getting about having an environment where business is incentivised to try and work with residents to do it. You're all kind of very informed as an audience here today to come along and kind of listen to us and ask us questions. But actually, the average resident on the street, what does a green economy mean for them? And you'll probably get 10 different answers from 10 different residents. And for me, I can kind of, my kind of views on this one are, it comes on to energy. Partly it's down to the provision of energy, so is it green, is it brown, is it wind turbines, is it generated by solar farms, is it nuclear, having that kind of discussion. I have a very strong view on this, and I actually do believe that the most mature technology around at the moment is solar. So as part of the initiative that we're trying to do at the moment, I think it's actually about 6 weeks ago now, I'm very pleased that my colleagues on the Council Cabinet and every single other member of the Council agreed to support that by 2020, so within 7 years, we're going to try and generate enough sufficient low carbon and renewable energy in Swindon to power all residential homes in Swindon. And that's around 220, 230 megawatts. And the Council itself has been able to say, we think we've got plans together to deliver 70 megawatts of that. So how can I actually create a way in which local businesses and pension funds and anybody else who wants to invest in Swindon to deliver the rest of it? So one of the things that we are actively looking at within the next 6 months, we're going to remove the need of having planning permission on some of these developments. If you look at something like B&Q store on the edge of the dual carriageway, if they wanted to put solar panels on top of their roof and elsewhere on their site, they need to apply for planning permission. We're kind of saying that let's use the new localism bill and the rules that we have around local development orders and actually say, if we can work with residents to come up with the guidelines, business and indeed many residents and farmers can go ahead and do these kind of developments if there's minimal impact. Just get on and do it. I'm not necessarily interested in coming back in 12 months' time and still talking about it. That's what I do not want to see happening. Okay, related to that is then around jobs and education. You've got the supply chain about attracting businesses and innovation into the area. You've got the waste, which is obviously a big topical thing at the moment, and 95% of the council's waste will not be going into landfill within the next 6 months. And of course we've got relationships with bodies like Woodland Wildlife Trust and the Woodland Trust. Hopefully we'll be able to talk later about some of the partnership work we've been doing, particularly with Gary around down in Gorton, to actually protect open space and forests for the benefit of all the residents for future generations.
Thank you, Dan.